Welcome to Benny Stories, the home of timeless folk tales and powerful stories that inspire, teach, and entertain. If you love stories filled with wisdom, culture, and life lessons, then you're in the right place. Before we begin today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up so you never miss out on the magic of storytelling. Now, sit back, relax, and let's journey together into the world of today's folktale. The city of Lagos buzzed with admiration every time Tunde Adewale and Amara Okorie appeared together in public. He was a rising star of politics, a man whose fiery speeches stirred the common people, whose story of clawing his way from the slums of Enugu to the corridors of influence inspired millions. She was a jewel of an old money family, with poise that turned heads, a wardrobe that graced fashion magazines, and a smile that could charm even the most hardened business mogul. Together, they were the definition of a power couple. At rallies, Amara waved with her husband as supporters chanted, "Tunde for governor! Tunde for governor!" Flashbulbs captured them, her hand in his arm draped protectively around her shoulders. The world saw unity. The world saw love. But what the world didn't see was a tension that simmered behind their mansion's tall iron gates. Late at night, after the servants had gone and the house was cloaked in silence, Amara would slip off her diamond earrings and toss them carelessly onto the vanity. She'd watch Tunde peel off his suit jacket and sigh heavily as he loosened his tie. The silence was sharp enough to cut glass. One night, she broke it. "You know what bothers me, Tunde," she said, her voice dripping with restrained venom. Tunde rubbed his forehead. "What now, Amara? You walk around this country like some saint, but you forget. I know you, the man who snores on this bed, who chews too loudly, who," she paused, glaring at him, "acts like I should always play the dutiful wife while you shine." Tunde turned to her, his eyes narrowing. "Amara, you knew what marrying me meant. Politics is about image. We can't afford cracks." Her laugh was bitter, sharp. "Cracks? Tunde, this marriage is one big painted wall hiding termites." But the next morning, the paper splashed photos of them laughing at a gala. The cracks stayed hidden from the world. To Lagos, they were flawless. But to each other, they were two actors in a performance neither wanted to quit, yet neither could stop resenting. And beneath their polished appearances, both of them carried secrets. Secrets that would soon erupt and set fire to everything they had built. The Okorie charity ball was a glittering affair, with chandeliers sparkling over tables draped in silk. Amara glided across the hall in a gown the color of liquid gold, every step echoing her elegance. Tunde shook hands with businessmen and dignitaries, basking in praise. As Amara reached for a glass of champagne, she caught a whisper. Two women stood close by, their voices hushed but sharp. "Acting like his record is clean," one scoffed. "Doesn't he have a child somewhere? Abandoned them, I heard." The other snickered. Lagos loves to forget. But some things never stay buried." Amara froze, her smile fixed as her heart thundered. She turned casually, pretending to admire the decor, but every word stabbed her ears. "A child? Tunde?" She floated through the rest of the night as though nothing had happened, laughing at jokes, holding Tunde's hand when cameras pointed their way. But inside, her mind spun with suspicion. Back at the mansion, she lay in bed while Tunde scrolled through his phone. She stared at him, her voice soft but cold. "Tell me, Tunde, is there something I should know?" He looked up, puzzled. "What are you talking about?" "Never mind." She turned away, but sleep never came. By morning, her decision was made. She called a number she hadn't dialed in years, a private investigator who once uncovered a cheating cousin's affair. "I need you to dig," she said, discreetly, "into my husband's past. Every corner." "Any specifics?" the investigator asked. "Find out if he has a child." Her voice shook, but her eyes gleamed with determination. If Tunde had lied, she wouldn't scream or cry. No, she would bide her time, because knowledge was power. And Amara had just decided she would never again be powerless in this marriage. 2 weeks later, the investigator arrived with a plain brown envelope. Amara dismissed the maid, locked the door, and opened it with trembling fingers. Photographs spilled out. A woman named Ngozi, a boy with Tunde's eyes, school records, hospital receipts. The paternity test confirmed it. Tunde Adewale, age 10. Amora's chest tightened as she stared at the boy's innocent smile. She whispered, "So it's true." Her hands shook, but her fury steadied her voice. When Tunde came home that night, she was a picture of calm. She kissed his cheek, served his favorite pepper soup, even asked about his campaign. He laughed, never suspecting the storm beneath a smile. But later, when she stood on the balcony watching him boast on a live interview about his transparent life, her anger boiled over. Transparent? She thought bitterly. A man who abandoned his child? She clenched the photographs to her chest, whispering to herself, "This secret is mine now. One day, Tunde Adewale, I'll make sure the world sees who you really are." And so, Amora's mask remained perfect. But now she carried a weapon, and she intended to use it. Tunde's star rose higher with each passing week. His party nominated him as a front-runner, and Lagos posters bloomed with his image. Crowds swarmed his rallies. Newspapers hailed him as the new face of hope. But Amara? She had grown cold. She smiled for cameras, yes, but at home her words sliced deeper than knives. One morning, as he buttoned his shirt, she said lightly, "You talk so much about Nigeria's children. Funny you don't talk about your own." The color drained from his face. "What did you say?" "Nothing, darling," she replied sweetly, sipping her tea. He walked out, but her words gnawed at him all day. Did she know? Could she have found out? At rallies, he forced his smile wider, but every time his eyes met his, he saw danger lurking. Their home became a battlefield of silence and barbed remarks. One night, he confronted her. "Amara, what's going on with you?" She tilted her head. "What's going on with you, Tunde?" The tension was unbearable. They were still the perfect couple to the public. But behind closed doors, the foundation was crumbling, and both of them knew it was only a matter of time before the house collapsed. It happened on a humid Tuesday morning. Lagos tabloids screamed with a new headline, "Prominent politician linked to abandoned child." The article never mentioned Tunde's name, but the details were unmistakable. A powerful politician, a child in Enugu, whispers of abandonment. Rivals seize on it instantly, hinting during speeches that some men cannot even care for their own. Tunde stormed through the mansion, his face red with fury. He called his team, demanded denials, and slammed his phone onto the table. Then he turned to Amara. "Do you know anything about this?" he barked. Amara sat on the couch, swirling red wine in her glass. She raised her eyes slowly, lips curling into a cold smile. "Secrets," she said softly, "have a way of calling out. Tunde, maybe you should have told me before the world did." His hands clenched into fists. Rage and fear clashed in his chest. He finally understood. His wife knew. She wasn't just angry. She was enjoying his downfall. And in that moment, the first blow had been struck. The war between husband and wife had begun. News of the mysterious abandoned child rippled through Lagos like wildfire. Political commentators debated it on morning shows, rivals used it as subtle jabs during rallies, and social media swirled with speculation. In Enugu, the woman at the center of it all, Ngozi, a single mother selling second-hand clothes in Ogbate Market, watched the frenzy on a neighbor's tiny TV. Her hands trembled as she recognized the face on the screen. Tunde Adewale, the man who once promised her forever, then vanished. Beside her, 10-year-old Chinedu tugged at her wrapper. "Mama, isn't that the man from my photo album? The one you said was my father." Ngozi's throat tightened. She had always planned to protect her son from the pain of knowing the truth. But now, fate had pulled him into the spotlight. Back in Lagos, Amara sat in her dressing room, calmly scrolling through her phone. She wasn't surprised when a number she had carefully planted found its way to Ngozi. A journalist Amara had secretly funded was ready to give Ngozi a platform. That night, Ngozi's interview aired online. Tearfully, she told her story, how Tunde had courted her, fathered her son, and left him behind when politics became his mistress. Tunde watched in horror. His phone buzzed with frantic calls from aides. The headline blazed, "Tunde Adewale's forgotten son speaks through his mother." And in the corner of their mansion, Amara smirked in triumph. The knife had cut deeper than before. Panic coursed through Tunde's veins, but he wasn't a man who surrendered easily. He summoned his campaign team. "We'll silence her," he said, pacing furiously. "Get me her number." He called Ngozi personally, his voice low and threatening. "Take the money. Ngozi, keep quiet. You and the boy will never lack again." But Ngozi, emboldened by Amora's unseen hand, refused. "You abandoned us once. Tunde, you won't bury us this time." The next day, photographs leaked online, old pictures of Tunde cradling baby Chinedu, handwritten love letters, even receipts from when he briefly supported them. The evidence was damning. Tunde's team scrambled. Rivals gloated. His poll numbers dipped. At home, Amara watched the chaos with a glass of wine. "You should have paid her better," she whispered, mocking him. Rage flared in Tunde. He slammed his fist on the table. "You're behind this, aren't you? Tell me the truth." Amara smiled sweetly, leaning close. "I don't need to lie. Tunde, you lied first." The walls of their marriage shook with the fury of war. But Tunde swore to himself he wouldn't go down alone. If Amara wanted to play games, he would play dirtier. For weeks, Tunde tried to control the narrative, but whispers grew louder. One night, he returned home late, exhausted, his face hollow from endless damage control. Amara was waiting in the living room, her figure framed by dim chandelier light. "You look tired," she said mockingly. He glared at her. "I know it's you. You dug her out, didn't you? You brought Ngozi back." She tilted her head, sipping her wine. "What makes you think I'd do that?" "Because only you benefit from my ruin." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Finally, Amara leaned forward. "You think you're invincible, Tunde, but power without loyalty is fragile. I am the woman beside you, the one who can make or break you. And right now, I choose to break you." Her words sliced through him. For the first time, he realized the truth. Amara wasn't just angry. She was strategic. She wanted control. That night, as he lay awake, Tunde made a vow. If she could play puppet master, then he would play executioner. He would dig into her past, find her secrets, and shatter her mass of perfection. Tunde began quietly assembling a new team, men loyal only to him, investigators who owed him favors. While his wife smiled for cameras at charity events, he slipped into backrooms, poring over files and bank statements. Soon, cracks appeared in Amara's flawless exterior. Her so-called charity foundation had irregular accounts. Millions of naira flowed in and out, tied to shady offshore transfers. Digging deeper, Tunde found whispers of an ex-lover, Kenneth Ayib, a businessman arrested years ago for fraud. Kenneth and Amara had once been inseparable. Some documents hinted she might have profited from his schemes. The discovery thrilled Tunde. For once, he had the upper hand. He clutched the evidence, his lips curling. "So, Amara, you think you're clean? Let's see how the world feels when they know your truth." Back at the mansion, Amara noticed his sudden shift. He was calmer, colder, even smiling at times. Her instincts told her danger was near, but she underestimated how far her husband was willing to go. The war was no longer about a secret child. It was about total annihilation. The Adewale household became a fortress of silent hostility. Meals were taken at opposite ends of the dining table. Words, when spoken, dripped with venom. To the world, they still appeared as Nigeria's golden couple. But inside their mansion, it was battlefield smoke and daggers. Tunde made his first move subtly. Rumors began to circulate online about Amara's charity being a money laundering front. Anonymous accounts hinted at connections to a disgraced fraudster. Journalists sniffed around, but the story hadn't broken fully. Not yet. Amara's phone buzzed with alerts. Her brow furrowed as she read the whispers spreading across Twitter. She marched into the study where Tunde sat today. "You think you're clever," she hissed. He looked up, smirking. "You drew first blood. I'll finish the war." Her fists clenched. "Don't forget, Tunde, I can still destroy you." "And don't forget," he replied smoothly, "you're not untouchable either." The game had escalated into something dangerous. No longer just a marital spat, No longer a private feud. It was now a war of exposure, with Lagos as the stage, the media as their weapons, and the truth, twisted and poisoned, as their ammunition. And neither of them was willing to lose. The air in Lagos was thick with tension. On TV screens across the nation, Tunde stood at a televised debate, his smile strained. His opponent leaned forward, voice dripping with malice. A man who abandons his own flesh and blood cannot claim he will father the future of Nigeria. The crowd gasped. Journalists scribbled furiously. The moderator tried to redirect, but the damage was done. Hashtags trended instantly, #father of secrets and #Tunde exposed. At home, Amara watched from her silk couch, legs crossed elegantly, a faint smile tugging her lips. This was her storm, perfectly crafted. But that same night, new rumors hit the blogs. Whispers of Amara's family businesses engaging in shady offshore deals. Screenshots of anonymous documents circulated. Okorie Foundation linked to fraud. One headline screamed. Amara's phone buzzed nonstop with calls from furious board members and her father. She smashed her glass of wine against the wall. Tunde had struck back. For the first time since this war began, Amara felt the chill of losing control. And the storm she thought she controlled was now spiraling into chaos. Determined to reassert her dominance, Amara planned a lavish charity ball at the Eco Convention Center. It was meant to remind Lagos high society that she was still queen, still untouchable. Celebrities arrived, cameras flashed, and Amara glowed in a crimson gown. But mid-event, chaos erupted. A group of journalists stormed the hall, waving printed documents. "Mrs. Adewale, what about your offshore accounts? What about Kenneth Ayub?" They shouted, cameras flashing. Gasps filled the hall. Guests whispered, horrified. Amara's hand shook as she clutched her wine glass. For the first time in public, her flawless composure cracked. Across the room, Tunde leaned against a pillar, watching. He didn't need to speak. His smile said it all. Checkmate. That night, as Amara ripped off a gown in their bedroom, she turned on him. "You think you've won? This is war, Tunde, and I don't lose." He chuckled darkly. "War? No, Amara. This is survival, and you've already started drowning." Her bold move had backfired, and now she was cornered. The Okorie mansion in Okorie was not the palace of calm it used to be. Amara's father, Chief Okorie, summoned her to his study. His voice thundered. "You've disgraced this family. Offshore accounts? Fraud ties? Do you know what this does to our name?" Amara tried to explain, but her father's glare silenced her. "You let that husband of yours drag you into his gutter politics. You will fix this, or you will no longer be my daughter." Tears welled in her eyes, but she wiped them quickly. Meanwhile, across town, Tunde faced his own nightmare. Protesters gathered outside his campaign office, waving placards, "No more lies, and not our governor." His campaign manager begged him to step down. In the mansion, silence reigned. Tunde and Amara passed each other in hallways like strangers, their home now a battlefield bunker. Friends stopped visiting. Family ties crumbled, and Lagos watched with glee as their perfect facade rutted. They had declared war on each other, but in doing so, they had set fire to everyone around them. The tabloids had a feast. Every morning brought new headlines. His secret child versus her secret crimes. Who's the bigger liar, Tunde or Amara? Talk shows dissected their every move. Twitter was ablaze with memes. Tunde holding a baby, Amara with bags of stolen money photoshopped beside her. Amara, furious, decided to raise the stakes. She called a trusted journalist and handed over audio recordings of Tunde mocking voters in a private meeting. The clip went viral overnight. In it, Tunde sneered, "They'll eat anything if you give them rice and ankara. Fools." Crowds erupted in outrage. Hashtags trended. #Tunde insults the people and #rice and ankara. Tunde's team scrambled, but it was too late. His image as man of the people was shredded. At home, he stormed into their bedroom, eyes blazing. "You leaked that recording." Amara didn't deny it. "And I'll do worse." He stepped closer, his voice low and venomous. "Then I'll burn your world to the ground." The circus had become a gladiator arena. And Lagos watched as husband and wife battled like sworn enemies. It was supposed to be a routine live interview. Tunde sat across from the journalist, answering questions with forced calm. But then came the bombshell. Is it true you fathered a child out of wedlock and abandoned him? Tunde froze. Millions of Nigerians watched live. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, Amara, seated beside him as a supportive wife, leaned toward the microphone. Yes, she said smoothly, her voice cold. It's true. He abandoned his son. The studio went silent. The journalist's jaw dropped. Tunde's face drained of color as cameras zoomed in. The revelation spread across social media like wildfire, clips replayed endlessly. But then, Tunde did something no one expected. He smiled. A slow, chilling smile. If I fall, he said, his voice steady, I'll make sure the world sees who my wife really is. The audience gasped. The interview ended in chaos, producers shouting, cameras flashing. Amara walked out triumphant, certain she had buried him. But deep inside, she felt unease. That smile wasn't defeat. It was a warning. And Tunde never warned without reason. The breaking point had been reached. From here, there was no turning back. By dawn, Lagos woke to billboards still bragging Tunde for the people. By noon, the same city had a new headline, press conference, tonight. The venue, a packed ballroom at Eco Hotels and Suites. Cameras formed a metal forest. Microphones bloomed like wildflowers across a single podium. Tunde waited in the green room, palms steepled, rage cooled into calculation. Boss, we're living 3, his media director whispered. He nodded, adjusted his tie, and stepped into the blaze of light. Flashes erupted. The room inhaled. For a beat, he said nothing, just scanned the crowd with calm that read like threat. Good evening, he began, voice low and controlled. Nigeria deserves truth. You have heard of my failings as a man. I will not hide. I failed Ngozi. I failed my son. I am taking responsibility and making amends. A murmur of surprise. Confession was not the strategy anyone expected. He lifted a folder. But this is not only a story of my sin. It is also the story of a public image curated through corruption. Tonight, I will submit documents to the EFCC and the press detailing activities conducted by my wife, Mrs. Amara Okorie Adewale. Screens behind him came alive with slides, bank statements, wire transfers, screenshots of shell company registries. The Okorie Women's Hope Foundation has served countless women. That is true. It has also laundered over 1.8 billion Nigerian nairas through offshore accounts in Mauritius and the BVI, with the help of a former lover, Mr. Kenneth Ayib. Reporters leaned forward like hounds catching scent. The next slide hit like thunder, grainy but unmistakable footage, Amara entering a private apartment, later joined by Kenneth. Timestamps. Multiple visits across months. This is not about infidelity, Tunde said, letting the footage burn. It's about quid pro quo. You will see board minutes altered, donor invoices inflated, and government grants earmarked for women diverted to private accounts. Hands shot up. Honorable Adewale, are you alleging your wife defrauded the government? I'm providing evidence, he replied. Allegations end tonight. Investigations begin tomorrow. He paused, letting the sentence land, then finished softly. I ask forgiveness of the woman I hurt years ago and of the boy who bears my name. But to the nation, I ask something different. Judge me by the truth I bring as well as the truth exposed about me. He left the podium to a blizzard of shouts. Outside, the Lekki night hummed. In the car, his phone vibrated with chaos, trending tags, panic from donors, calls from party elders. He ignored them all and dialed one number. Ngozi answered on the second ring. Yes. I want to meet, he said. No cameras. Just us and Chinedu. A beat. I'm ready to do right. Silence. Then, we'll see. Tunde. Across the city, Amara watched the conference replay on mute. The screen painted her in cold, merciless light. She stood absolutely still, wine glass trembling. Then, with a small, deliberate motion, she set it down and smiled at the dark window. So, she whispered to her reflection. You want war with receipts. Her eyes flashed. Good. By morning, Lagos had split into camps. Hash forgive Tunde versus hash arrest Amara. The radio crackled with heated callers. Twitter turned into a tribunal. At Balagan Market, women appraised lace and debated ethics. In 6 high-rises, boardrooms whispered about exposure risk. Amara did not hide. She strode into her foundation's office in a tailored navy suit, greeted staff with a smile that dared anyone to blink. Emergency audit, she announced. We will release all books. Full transparency. Cameras caught it. The mood trended. Appears strong. Control the frame. Halfway through an open media walkthrough, a blogger lunged forward with a tablet. Madam, how about this? He tapped play. The room froze as a high-definition video filled the screen. Amara in a quiet restaurant, sliding an envelope to Kenneth. Her voice, clear, measured, same account. Split the grant into 3 tranches. We cannot spook the donors. A gasp rippled through staff like a dropped glass shattering. Amara's smile didn't crack, but color left her cheeks. Manipulated, she said, voice smooth. Deep fake. But then came the second blow. A young accountant stepped forward, hand shaking. Madam, I can't lie. Some entries are not clean. Tears. The cameras drank it in. The humiliation didn't end there. On a gossip program that evening, a guest analyst, small-time, hungry for clout, described Amara's rise with cruel relish. She weaponized elegance. Philanthropy was a costume. The bank receipts are the truth. At home, she paced the length of the marble hallway, phone pinned to her ear. Kenneth, you idiot, she hissed. Why did you keep recordings? I kept insurance, he replied. Too quickly. You said we were partners. We were convenient, she snapped. Now you will deliver a statement clearing me, or you'll do what? Leak my old charges again. His laugh was thin, desperate. We're both drowning, Amara. She hung up before the panic in his voice infected her. Then she marched to the mirror, straightened her spine, and called a stylist. We film a sit-down tomorrow. Soft light, honest tone. We will tell the truth. Her truth, of course. Not the one in the ledgers. That night, as rain drummed Lagos awake, Tunde arrived at a modest flat in Surulere. He knocked. The door opened in Goz's guarded face and the boy peeking from behind her hip. Hi, Chinedu, Tunde said, forcing a smile. The boy stared at him a long time. Are you really my father? Tunde swallowed. Yes, he whispered, and I am sorry. They sat, 3 people on a ragged couch in the edge of 10 years. No cameras, no press. The apology was awkward and incomplete, but it was real. When he stood to leave, Chinedu stepped forward and hugged him quickly, like testing water. In the parking lot, Tunde exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd held for a decade. He had started to rebuild one thing, even as another burned. Across town, Amara rehearsed lines in front of a teleprompter. I made mistakes, but not crimes. She held the gaze, softened the jaw, found the angle where remorse looked beautiful. Humiliation would not end her. She would make it her viral rebirth. They arrived separately to the courthouse. Lagos loved a spectacle, and this was a coronation of ruin. Photographers perched like hawks, influencers live-streamed, vendors sold bottled water to rubberneckers. A smart navy suit for Tunde, a dove-gray sheath for Amara. Neither wore a wedding ring. Inside, lawyers murmured like bees. Tunde's counsel, seasoned and patient, stacked folders labeled with ruthless simplicity, donations, transfers, video. Amara's team arranged their weapons, defamation, character assassination, domestic neglect, a narrative to muddy every receipt. The judge called the case, and the air tightened. Tunde's side moved first. Temporary separation, public safety order against further leaks, immediate audit filing with regulators. Amara's side struck back, petition for injunction against malicious dissemination of doctored media, restraining order to stop emotional harassment, and a property freeze. During recess, they stood 10 feet apart in the corridor, 2 statues carved from pride and hurt. Finally, Amara spoke without turning her head. "This ends when you beg." Tunde's laugh had no joy. "I did my begging in a soilere flat last night. To a 10-year-old. I'm finished begging adults." She flinched. He saw it. Back in session, the judge, tired, fair, unimpressed, set a hearing schedule and warned both parties against trial by media. The warning lasted exactly 11 minutes after they stepped outside. Microphones hunted, questions pounced, and Lagos swallowed their faces whole. That evening, Tunde posted a 2-paragraph statement. "I have filed for divorce on grounds of irreconcilable betrayal. I will cooperate with authorities regarding all allegations. I will also be present for my son, publicly and privately. The rest will be handled in court." It was restrained, almost gentle. It trended anyway. Amara countered with video, luminescent lighting, a powder blue blouse, vulnerability LA imported into Lagos. "Marriage is hard. Public life is harder," she said, glistening-eyed. "I loved a man who chose power over truth. I will clear my name in court. Until then, pray for me." #pray for Amara Sword. But a second upload followed within the hour. This one not from her. A blogger stitched old party footage of Amara and Kenneth into Tunde's slides, then into fresh leaks from a nameless whistleblower. The edit was brutal, the music mean. Views climbed past 1 million before midnight. At 2 a.m., sleepless and pacing, Amara texted Tunde, "Meet me. No lawyers." The reply came minutes later. No more private rooms. "We end this in daylight, on record." She stared at the words until they blurred. For the first time, she wondered what end might really mean. If there was one card left in Amara's deck, it was labeled Annihilate. She met with a shadowy fixer in a car that smelled of leather and fear. "I need his account," she said. "I need proof he stole from campaign funds." The fixer slid a flash drive across the console. "Wire trails. Shells. Enough to bury him," he whispered. "But once you pull this trigger, it's war without rules." "I passed rules at the door," she said, and left. 2 days later, a bomb dropped. An investigative thread with polished slides and what looked like ironclad bank logs. #Tunde the Thief trended. Pundits who'd wavered swung the hammer. "He fooled us all," a radio host spat. For 3 hours, Nigeria believed it. Then Tunde's team invited journalists to a forensic walkthrough. They displayed the same documents, only these had original metadata. Fonts differed, time zones misaligned. Transaction hashes were recycled from a 2019 cyberscam. A digital forensics firm took questions and grinned. "The bank logs are fabricated," the lead analyst said, tapping the screen. "Badly." The room crackled as narratives flipped mid-sentence. "Who would plant these?" a reporter asked. Tunde didn't answer. He didn't need to. Minutes later, the EFCC posted a terse update. They were opening a case into document forgery tied to the viral thread. The fixer's name began to snake through Telegram groups. A screenshot surfaced of his car meeting, a diagonal shot through rain-specked glass. The internet did what it does, found the street, the time, the plate. By evening, a warrant trended. At 9 p.m., a shaky video showed plainclothes officers escorting the fixer into a van. Off camera, a voice asked, "Who hired you?" The clip cut before an answer. It didn't matter. Lagos already had one. Amara watched it from the dark of her bedroom, phone hot in her hand. Her PR team hammered the group chat. Deny. Discredit the forensic firm. Play the misogyny card, but the ground had shifted. The public could forgive ambition. It could forgive style as strategy. It did not forgive forged proof. Her father called. She let it ring. Kenneth texted. She blocked him. A staffer pleaded for instructions. She typed, "Shut the office. Pay everyone 2 months. Go home." Then she threw the phone onto the bed and stared at the ceiling until dawn bled the room gray. At first light, a knock. She opened the door to 2 EFCC officers and a female operative with tired eyes and a professional courtesy. You're invited for questioning." Amara nodded once. "Let me get my coat." On the way out, flashes popped like fireworks. Someone shouted, "Do you regret exposing your husband?" She paused, met the lens, and Just for a heartbeat, let the iron mask slip. Yes, she said, but not for the reason you think. They hustled her into the car. As it pulled away, Lagos exhaled, the kind of long, complicated breath a city takes when a myth concludes. Election day arrived beneath a sky polished by harmattan. Posters clung to walls like tired promises. Men queued in sandals and suits. Women shaded babies and ballots with headscarves. The city moved with that peculiar, hopeful hush, everybody pretending the future could be decided politely. Tunde voted quietly in Ajigunle, where the story of his childhood had once gilded his speeches. No entourage, just 2 aides and a baseball cap pulled low. A boy recognized him. "Uncle Tunde," he chirped. "Are you still going to be governor?" Tunde knelt to the child's height and smiled in a way that might finally have been honest. "I will be a father first," he said, and the boy looked confused and pleased in equal measure. Results trickled in through the night. It was close, then not close, then a cliff. Just after midnight, the networks called it Tunde Adewale, victory. The ballroom returned. The lights returned. The microphones rushed. He stood at the same podium where he had once unsheathed truth like a blade. "My fellow citizens," he began, the words slow and careful, "you saw my worst week. You saw my sin. You also saw that truth, once set loose, does not choose sides. It devours all of us. Tonight, you have given me a mandate I did not deserve but will spend every day trying to earn." He thanked the party. He thanked his late mother. He did not thank his wife. Later, on a quiet balcony, his phone buzzed with a new message from an unsaved number. "Congratulations. Be better than us." The delivery receipt turned blue, then nothing. He typed a reply. Deleted it. Typed again. "I'm trying." Sent. 3 days after questioning, Amara posted one final video. No softlight, no stylist, just a window behind her and a city's ordinary noise drifting in. "I am cooperating with investigators," she said, voice steady. "Some things you've heard are false. Some are true. I won't perform remorse. I will practice it." She paused, and the mask lifted fully. "Woman, not brand. I love power more than partnership," she admitted. "I wanted to own the story so badly I forgot we were the story." A small smile, almost human. "If you're watching this to see me beg, I won't. But if you're watching this to see me begin again, I might." She ended the foundation, sold the cars, moved from a mansion to a quiet flat whose rent she paid with money that had receipts and dates and light on it. The tabloid followed for a week, then grew bored. Lagos always had fresher gossip. Tunde stood outside a public school in Enugu one Saturday, watching Chinedu try on a uniform. The boy's grin was shy and huge. Ngozi stood a few steps away, arms folded, not unfriendly, not forgetful. "Fees are settled," Tunde said. Ngozi nodded. "It's a start." He took a breath. "I can't rewrite 10 years. You can write the next 10. Her eyes softened. "Don't perform fatherhood for cameras. Just be here." He looked out at the playground where small voices made big echoes and thought about podiums, about applause that sounded like rain on tin, loud and forgettable. He thought about Amara's last message. He thought about the price of secrets, not the lost elections or won ones, not the headlines or the handcuffs that never quite closed. The real price was the ordinary, daily shrinking of the soul until you remembered to tell the truth, and then the long, slow stretching back. That night, back in Lagos, he walked onto a stage for his formal victory address. He held the speech they'd written and folded it in half. "My administration will not be a performance," he said. "It will be receipts. It will be apologies when needed and audits everywhere else. Starting with me." He gestured toward the journalists, toward the nation watching with folded arms. "Hold me to this." Loudly. In a small apartment across town, Amara turned off the TV, pulled a single suitcase from under bed, and placed inside it only what she could defend. A Bible with margins scribbled full, a photograph of her mother at 20, the deed to nothing in particular. She left the keys on the counter and closed the door behind her with a soft click that says a story has decided it will end gently, even if it never began that way. Outside, Lagos moved as Lagos always does, noise and neon, hustlers and hymns. 2 people, once the city's mirror, stepped off in different directions, one toward a future measured in policies and presence, the other toward a future measured in small, stubborn act of honesty. She exposed him. He exposed her. The world devoured it. And what remained, when the clamor died, was the only thing that ever survived scandal. The work of becoming better than your worst day, and doing it where no camera cares to look.